Right, afternoon everybody. Right, can I do the introductions first? So my name is Matt Gaskin, I'm head of the School of Architecture. We've also got Hussein Sadeghi Movavid, who's the subject coordinator for the Sustainable Architecture Evaluation Design. I'm going to be talking mainly about the MArchD programs. Joel Chappelle, who's the subject coordinator for the MArch, will give us a little overview of that. But in addition, it's really nice to have Jennifer Sadeghi, who's a program portfolio manager with us, who also covers the SADD. Rekha, who's kind of responsible, along with Gaurav, or mainly Rekha's, for this idea about running the seminar with the webinar with you guys, and she's a program administrator for the MArchD. Caroline Tyndale is a program administrator for the MArch, but unfortunately couldn't be with us because she's actually on holiday at the minute, taking a well-deserved break. And we've also got Gaurav Sharma, the head of marketing operations, as he said, in South Asia. So what I wanted to first of all do is kind of just give you an overview of the school very briefly. The School of Architecture at Oxford Brookes will be coming up to 100 years anniversary in 2027. Obviously, one of the reasons that you probably applied to us is because of our high QS world ranking, which will help you if you wanted to get employment in India or anywhere around the planet later. The other thing is we're number 8 in the Guardian League table, which is a British paper, which some of you might have heard of. We've always had a strong record in the RIBA President's Medals. That's mainly in the world of architecture, obviously. But the big thing probably that you're unaware of is that we have an internationally acclaimed research program in 5 groups that actually informs the teaching for more than the programs today, but particularly the programs that you've come here to hear about today. We have global graduates as well. We have graduates all around the world and are doing incredibly well, all 4 corners of the earth, as they say. So Joel, I wanted to bring you in here and give us a bit of an overview on the MArch program.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So the MArch program, it's a 1-year direct entry program, and it doesn't give the RIBA Part 2 qualification, which the MArchD does, but it's a full year program that runs from September to September, and we are probably a 95% studio-based course. That means that even with our sort of COVID situation, we're sort of working to make sure we have as much face-to-face interaction as possible, because the premise of the MArch is to develop your own individual and identity as a designer and architect, and to sort of develop your ways of thinking using your own sort of design methodologies. So within that, we do a lot of experimental work, which is kind of within an arts practice process, so sort of collaging, drawing, and trying to be spontaneous. So what we try to do is develop your ability to cultivate your unconscious thoughts into design thoughts. So those things that you don't sort of necessarily think are important, they might become important later. But the course is structured to sort of develop your skills. So we have one of the modules, urban cultures, that is sort of a skills-based sort of workshop. So that is sort of image making, photography, understanding how to take images properly, and then they develop into moving images, so using film and various different other pieces of software to communicate what you might be trying to design, because words are one thing, but being able to describe something visually is a different discipline. And that is also then combined with a design module where you'll sort of work within the group. Also, we work in parallel with the MArchD students, so you mix with students of a similar discipline but are on a slightly different path, and there'll be UK and EU students as well as international. So we really mix the studio culture, and our design sort of builds over a series of conversations, and we have presentations, performances, show and tells, and we sort of encourage you to develop the ways that you want to work. So then you're able to take those skills after the course and continue those either at PhD. A lot of students go on to set up their own companies, or continue practicing in a different country. We don't just talk about things, we also do things, and we teach you how to do things that you may not be so skilled in, because generally an architect, you could argue that an architect is in control of air, how we exist within our sort of environment, but also it's to communication. And you may have very complex ideas in your mind that you want to communicate, and they might have social issues, political issues, various different sort of themes, but to communicate those visually is key. Is that, yes, we might be able to talk an idea, but if you can't show a client an idea, then they will always struggle. And so we sort of specialize in visual representation. So as architects, as we probably all are, maybe even Reka would be able to read plans and sections, but quite often clients aren't able to do that. But what we try to do is develop your understanding of idea and communication so that you can propose an experience or an immersive experience to whoever you might be proposing that to. So this is, as I said, done throughout the course of the year. And so the final module is a dissertation, which is generally a design dissertation. So we don't ask you to write 20,000 words because you're designers. The designers generally don't make the best writers. But we ask you to make something, and that making might be a film, it might be a series of images, a series of experiments, an installation, or an artifact or a piece of furniture. So the design dissertation is very much driven by yourselves and what you're trying to communicate based on our sort of yearly brief. And recently we have introduced a final exhibition for the MArch students, because for the school we have a final year exhibition in June, but the MArch students you would finish in September. So we have introduced a final exhibition so that you have the opportunity to curate your own exhibition, invite family, friends, and even prospective employers. And we've recently had that in our own exhibition space in Brookes, but also at St John's College in Oxford. So we work externally as well with prestigious colleges, as well as having a film showing in a local cinema. So we are very engaged with promoting you, one as students, but also your work locally, as well as being able to have that as something that's on your CV that you can also develop, because as much as you're coming to do architecture, you might find that filmmaking or curation or these other things you also really enjoy, which adds to your own set of skills. So we try to build on what you have already. We don't impose an agenda on you. We accept you as skilled, intelligent people, and we add more into that. So we construct a sort of much more of a learning identity for you.
Thanks, Joel. Okay, if you've got any questions for Joel or any other questions, just keep typing them in. I think they make a noise when they come through, so that's the kind of beeping that coming in, so that just to correct that. I'm going to now move on to sustainable architecture, evaluation and design, and I'm going to bring in Hussein. Hussein.
Yes, thanks, Matt, and thanks, Joel. I'll try to keep this one probably as short as possible, so we have a bit of more time for questioning. But just to give you a bit of a background and the bit of a overall overview of the course, let me start by a little bit talking about myself. I am a graduate from Oxford Brookes myself, and I had a pleasure of being Matt Gaskin's student 20 years ago. And so it's like, it shows how strong our community is and how students would come back and contribute to the course. And I am a graduate from the MSc course that I'm going to talk about it over 14 years ago, and where probably sustainability was a little bit less talked about. Probably people were still understanding the importance of it, which is quite different from what it is now these days. And now the governments, the agreements, international communities are looking with the different legislation in place for sustainability and making the knowledge that we provide for you guys within our course a lot more applicable and a lot more probably immediately used within the different offices. Perhaps many people have been directly impacted by in some form or with their family or the news that the importance of sustainability within architecture, especially, and how we are responsible for our future. So our course provides several theoretical modules in the beginning that it gives you a bit of a knowledge of how we do things, how the building is made, how we can reduce the impact of it. As Matt also mentioned earlier, we are linked with the two of the very successful research groups within the School of Architecture, and they are head of the two of those research groups are the module leaders within our course, and they bring all that wealth of knowledge directly for you guys from the latest research, from the latest issues and challenges within the world of sustainability, which is quite evolving and is ever changing, and we are learning obviously a lot of new things. So that is what, you know, it really forms that kind of teaching that we do. Then we have a lot of probably more practical modules that, you know, you apply a lot of the knowledge that you've gained into a bit of a practice, and you put it into testing it yourself. So we teach you some of those software that you can use, some of those physical testing and things like this, to make sure that it's a lot more applicable, and you can go to the office and actually use that knowledge immediately and directly. That is then led to a dissertation that asks you to do it. That dissertation could be any kind of form that you would like, in terms of whether it's a research-led design, or it is completely a research piece of work, or it is a little bit probably linked with your design module, that if you take that path. A lot of students use that dissertation as a platform and a step to do other things, either within the employment or looking at the funded PhDs or research positions, or these kind of future employment opportunities. We have a lot of our ex-students, our alumni, directly linked with the course. They really enjoyed what we do, and they come back and they contribute to the course, and they talk about the what they are doing now. And that kind of link is very strong, because, you know, they are successful in the practices that they're working and what they are doing. So they come and actually share that knowledge. And also it makes a very good link between you guys and the future employer. And that is quite strong, because, you know, that community keeps getting stronger and stronger. So in terms of where you can take this knowledge and what you could do in the future, a lot of our students either look at the possible further education, which is a lot of funding available because of the topic, whether it is PhD or some other kind of doctorate. Or you might be looking at the research groups. Some of our ex-students are working within some of our research groups currently. Professor Rajat Gupta, perhaps you would have come across him, quite a lot of his publication. Is one of our basically head of the research group that is employing some of our ex-students. Very proactive in India as well. That we have very big, large project in India with probably your government is looking a lot more towards sustainability and some of those positive movement. And probably a lot of them, they go back to the architectural practices and put that knowledge into practice, or they look at sustainability consultancy and they go towards that kind of route. I think that just gives you a bit of a summary, very quick summary of what we do and what the wealth of knowledge that we can offer you and where it comes from in terms of the history of it. Just to conclude on it, our course has been running for 25 years. This year was our 25th year anniversary, which unfortunately was at the same time as COVID-19, which we would have probably liked to have celebrated, but we hope probably we would be doing that with some of you guys next year with a bit of a delay. So thanks, Matt.
All right. Thanks, Hussein. Okay, moving on to the MArchD program. This is the 2-year Part 2 qualification. It is accredited by the RIBA, the Royal Institute of British Architects, the ARB, the Architects Registration Board, and LAM, which is the Malaysian Board of Architects. The 2 years are very distinct, but the unique flavour of the programme is the fact that it's a truly master's Part 2 programme. It's not just an extension of an undergraduate programme and more of the same kind of design. So you will actually come out with a Part 2 qualification plus a specialisation. Specialisations we offer are advanced architectural design, which you've kind of heard about the ethos and that from Joel. There's a regeneration and development route, which is, if you're an architect, you fully understand what that's about. That's the one I'm involved with in the design project. The development emergency practice, which is very different, that is training architects to work in disaster zones such as tsunamis and earthquakes. Sustainable architecture value development, Hussein just given an overview of that area. There's also urban design. But if none of those 5 set routes particularly appeal to you, or they don't quite tick the boxes for the kind of thing you want to do, you can also offer up your own choice of study under research-led design. So the ethos of the course is that we will put responsibility on you for your education, but we'll also give you choice and independence to a point. So you can actually start to understand about what kind of architect you would like to become. Then moving into the second year, you'll participate in one of 8 design studios. The studios vary year on year. They're primarily taught by practicing architects who come up from London. London's about an hour and a half away on the bus. Probably less at the minute because of the reduction in traffic. But the idea is that way we get designers, and the tutors are designers that are actually active, and then some are academic based. So it allows us to offer a theoretical, practical, tectonic kind of approach. The facilities in the school is obviously the state-of-the-art studio spaces, software and equipment. We renewed the computers in September last year, so we're very keen to get back into our studios. There's 112 high-end computers in the studios. The building, which is the top right illustration, we're on the 3rd and 4th floors of Abercrombie in a kind of open studio. We don't separate the undergraduate from the postgraduate students, so you will actually get a chance to kind of mix together, obviously with a different framework to normal after COVID-19. The workspaces are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in normally, but the minute we've had to restrict that for COVID-19, but the idea is to get back to that as quickly as possible. All the software is bang up to date on the computers. There's also a print room run by a very popular member of our staff, Marcello, that has one of the fastest printers in Europe that will produce 13 A1s a minute. We have a workshop which is partly run by Joel, but partly run by Jamie as well. And the workshop, you do an hour's induction, then you can use all the machinery in there. We've got 3 laser cutters. In addition to that, we also have studio kitchens, which for me was probably the nightmare scenario of moving into a new building, but actually has probably become one of the most important features. Is you can make yourself a cup of tea, cup of coffee, get some lunch. There's a fridge in there as well. The idea is you can bump into people from different years and different backgrounds and different cultures and have a conversation. So hence why that's why we have a dynamic and vibrant studio, and we've got plans to try and keep that going along, dependent on COVID-19 coming back. If it doesn't, then we'll just kind of keep going as normal, to be honest. And then we also have a virtual reality capability in the school if that's something that you wish to pursue. Putting a slide here on support, Reka is kind of like the key thing for the MArchD students. We'll offer kind of support for that, and Reka sets up, and I join her for kind of discussions around particularly international students. We're very keen that you guys get the kind of support you need. So is Joel, and so is Hussein. That will make sure that you'll need certain type of information and advice that home students do not need. But we'll give you kind of like, there's also a service beyond the school, the International Student Advice Team, that offer visa status kind of feedback, employment options, personal finance, this kind of thing. But in addition, they also run social events and trips, and they're going to do that online next year as well. If you can't join us in September, but you maybe join us later on in the year or halfway through the first semester. We also have a careers advice service for when you're coming up to graduation and you want to kind of look at your options. There's a medical centre and dentist on the site. Actually, it's about, well, I can see it from my office window if I just look out my office window. So it's all but 2 minutes away. There's a global buddy system as well. Will hook you up and make sure that you have a powerful network, a global network, which is very important for later life once you move into the world of work. And there's a really strong alumni network, as Hussein said. The anniversary, it's just delayed, it's not cancelled. There's a very strong network in architecture and across the entire school. The last slide I'm going to put up is a follow-up question. So if you do have any questions for MArchD, and I've taken these people's names in vain, so hopefully they're happy with this. Eureka would be the contact for the MArchD if you wanted to have an email and there's a particular personal question or individual position you want to ask about. We're very keen that you get the right information that you need, particularly this year more than ever, because there's a bit of uncertainty and a bit of reassurance required. For the Sustainable Architecture Programme, it's Jennifer Sistegi, and so the email's there. And then for MArch, it's Caroline, who couldn't join us today because she's on leave. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen now so as you can see the questions, and we've got about, hopefully about half an hour left. That was the plan, so that's good. Let me see if I can join you. Excellent, right. Okay, so let's kick off and I'll fire these around. So Emma asked Joel, does robotic construction, is it part of any module in the MArch Advanced Architectural Design? Oh, you've answered it, sorry. I'm behind the times, right. So we don't have a robotic arm yet, but the plan is to get one. But at the minute, everything's kind of on hold until we take stock of where we are with COVID-19. So what I'll do is I'll talk a wee bit about COVID-19 and our plans for the school, which is one of the key things. If you've got any questions, by the way, they're a bit shorter questions there. Please ask your questions. That's why we're here. That includes support, facilities, anything you like. It doesn't have to be about COVID-19. The COVID-19 approaches, and Joel might come in on this as well, is that we've been running a group on this for about coming up to a month, is to look at how we use our studio spaces with the new restrictions. 2 weeks ago, we were working to a 2 meter social distancing. I think about 10 days ago, that changed to 1+. 1+, we could still make it work at 2 meters, but that was proving to be a bit of a kind of headache, whereas 1+, I think we get something far more workable. So Joel's put together a plan. The plan is that Monday to Friday, sort of 9 till 6, each year of the school will be allowed into the studio space for teaching in design studios. So 9 till 6 on a Monday and a Thursday will be undergraduates. Tuesday, Wednesday will be postgraduates. So you'll either be in on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, 9 till 6. What we're also looking at the minute is we might have a bit of leftover space that we're hoping to open up during the days for bookable kind of time for you to come in and use the studios outside of, within that teaching time, sorry. And then in the evenings up till midnight and then early morning, we're looking at a bookable system. We can't get 24/7 studios yet, but we'll see how the up to midnight goes and then take it from there. Because the other thing we don't want to do is don't want to be encouraging you guys to work 24 hours a day. But saying that, we're also opening at the weekend, so you can book a slot there, so you keep yourself busy and entertained. In terms of the workshop relatively, and Joel, correct me if I'm wrong, is unchanged here because with the health and safety requirements, we're kind of in the same place. So you do the hours, and the only difference will be that you'll have to book a slot online, as far as I'm aware. Joel, is that correct on that one?
Yeah, we're just sort of working that bit out at the moment of how we do it, because obviously we have peaks and troughs of demand with the workshop, and whether it's what we're trying to do generally is keep everything as normal as possible in the safest possible way. So in terms of either contact with students and also then with our resources such as print room and workshop, it may be there's a click and collect, but as generally as students become more autonomous and self-driven with the machines, then obviously you're able to sort of engage with it. And obviously we don't know what skills you already have. You may already be experts and maybe know more than we do already in the workshop. So we can only know once we sort of start, but generally it's trying to be as accessible as possible whilst keeping up both our sort of staff and students safe. Just as a slight point on the studio as well, just so people who are interested in the MArch, and I believe also Amit is applied and been offered and accepted, is that the MArch has its own studio within the larger studio, which we have PCs within, and also we have that as a sort of small cinema room, photography room and filming. So we're fortunate where we kind of have our own sort of enclosure, as it were, already, which is useful for us because we're able to sort of have much more immersive events, as it were, because as I said, the studio is very much face to face of how we teach.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Matt's covered everything with the main studio as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. We're also we can do remote access to the computers at the minute from outside the studio space, but we're looking to lay another piece of software on top of that that adds to that even more. And that's the plan, is to allow you to remote access to the software. We'll also be producing, kind of letting you have a minimum spec for a computer, but that's more for me undergraduate. You guys usually have already got our kind of computer in place. But that's the plan around that. Is there any international field trips involved as part of the MArchD program? What a question. It's a difficult question to answer at this time. Probably not this year coming, because we are straddled on two issues. One is COVID-19 and number two is Brexit. That has come the end of December. There might be requirements around Brexit. The biggest issue is COVID-19 and the ability for people to move freely, because the last thing we want is to set up an international field trip and then certain people from, say, people from India have to spend 2 weeks in quarantine going there and then 2 weeks in quarantine coming back. That's not much of a field trip, really. So we'll probably become UK based. I met with heads of schools of other schools of architecture yesterday evening, and the idea is to look at having a kind of European or international wide program of sharing across other schools of architecture from the UK, Europe in the main. But a sort of feel good factor kind of event, maybe something around about Easter that starts us to make a connection as a community again. Because at the minute it's all kind of like keeps coming at us, so we kind of want something to look forward to. And for me, that's going on international trips. So I feel your pain a little bit at the minute, but you will be offered a trip. You usually offer a trip every year. Hopefully, if you're on the MArchD, you'll be offered a trip in the second year. You'll certainly still be offered trips, but it'll be in the UK, which you know, hopefully even up north, Scotland and stuff like that. Because I'm from Scotland originally, but yeah, some of our students, even our home students, have been all around Europe and never been to Scotland. So that's the plan, get out and about a wee bit. So but I do agree that going on trips is an important part of your experience of coming to the UK. You'll still be able to get in and out of London. That seems to be working okay. We've got quite a few members of staff that live in London. I think they enjoyed lockdown because London was empty. They really enjoyed walking around. One of our members of staff actually took a whole lot of photographs of London in lockdown empty, which is unusual. I want to bring Reka in a wee bit, if she's okay with this. We'll talk a wee bit about some of the support we give within the school. Reka, do you want to say a wee bit about the support in the school? Because you led this for us over the last, I don't know, 5-10 years. So yeah.
Okay, so I mean, there's quite a wide structure of support that we have. So for each student, whether you're MArchD or MArch SAED, for all our students, you have an academic advisor assigned to you. You also have, you know, your subject coordinator and the wider team. But any program module queries, you would go to them. But we also have student support coordinators within the faculty. So they are the ones that you would talk to for any accommodations, finance, personal problems. As Matt touched on earlier, we have the international student advice team. So they are very approachable with anything to do with your visas. And as Matt said, there's the global buddy system that we would encourage you, even if you're not physically here, it will still work with things being online, because certainly for MArchD, I know that some of you are intending to start with us in January, all being well. So you'll start online in September. But it's to kind of just reassure you that even if there are services you may think you can't access because of not being here, we'll still have that available to you online, and we're looking to organise different events and just to kind of keep you engaged with the school, and just any questions that you have, whether between now and September or when you're studying with us, just there's always someone for you to talk to, someone for you to ask, and if we don't know, we'll just point you in the right direction. So it's just to never feel that you're alone. Just any concerns, any questions, big or small, just ask any one of us. So yeah, that kind of covers the support side.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a stupid question, okay? Ask us anything you want. It's really important. We would say that anyway, forget COVID-19. I just think you need to have a question. Hussein, did you want to come in there? I saw your mic come on.
Yes, there was a question related to SAD, and I think there's another one that probably
Oh,
Joel,
sorry, I missed them. Right. Okay.
Person to answer it. In terms of your question, what for SAD, Gori, we have a module that is specifically looking at urban sustainability and microclimate, and we look at some of those importance of urban scale, what is the impact, for example, of heat island effect, and what are the things we can do. We give you a software that you can test, and we get you to experiment with some of these different ways of reducing that impact. So yes is probably the quickest answer to that. We look at that. And in terms of the design, if that's your what you're relating to MArch, yeah, we do have a module that is like a core module that goes across 2 semesters, and it does have a design element, which is where you apply a lot of the things that you have learned into a more practical side of it, and you're asked to come up with a scheme. That module is offered as either with the design, if you have an architecture or design background, or you could go a lot more to a research approach to it if you don't feel like that you want to go a lot more to the design side of it, and whether it's to do with your background or if you want to just simply strengthen your research approach. In terms of, you said the outcome, obviously you would be qualified with the MSc. Is that what you're meaning in the future, what the things that you can do? Yeah, you would be graduated with the MSc, and in terms of probably a lot of doors, it can be open when you're graduating from our course. I practiced as an architect for a number of years after my graduation, and I probably took that knowledge a lot more to practice, and probably reminded a lot of our my directors and everything, wherever I worked at, the importance and possibilities and the things that we need to do and changes that we need to make. And that was many years back. So you imagine now is a lot more probably welcomed and is the more need for this knowledge. As I said, you can go towards research. We have a lot of different positions that probably within the School of Architecture be offered to our students. A lot of practices that they offer sustainability in terms of probably consultancy or expertise, the passive house, experts or knowledge in those kind of area. They're continuously looking for people to join their team. As I said, some of our alumni are very proactive within the course and come and join us within the course, and we make that link available to you guys. And we continuously advertise those kind of positions after, even a few years after you might be looking at that. And probably few of our students are setting up their own practice, and they're very active in those things. A little bit like more cutting edge kind of approach, some of those new kind of ideas, that they are looking at prefabrication, how they can do it differently. So kind of innovative kind of approach. So to be honest, there are so many possibilities. And another one probably is academia. If you did proceed to further education and that was something that you like, I mean, that was not the path that I envisaged when I graduated, but that is what I've been doing for a number of years, in the past years, slowly got bigger and bigger, and I really enjoy what I do and giving back to the knowledge that I learned within the School of Architecture for a number of years and within these courses specific. So I really enjoy getting involved and seeing you guys progress.
Right, Hussein, there's another question there about the software you'll be teaching in the building the performance evaluation. So just quickly give us an overview of the software we use.
Yeah, we use a number of different software. So very quickly, there's one specific software that is called Design Builder, which is a dynamic simulation modeling program we use. We use MVMET for the urban sustainability and microclimate. We sometimes use THERM for using psi value calculation. So there are different softwares that we teach you everything when we provide you the software and the license, and you can have it for the duration of your study with us. But in terms of drawings and how you do the presentation of it, you're very welcome to do what you prefer and you're more comfortable to use. So we are not dictating to use a specific drawing package, but we teach you those specialist program like a dynamic simulation, like CFD modeling, like psi value calculation within our course. So we provide it and we give you all the necessary knowledge that is required.
Right, thanks, Hussein. Another one's there is it possible to change from MArch to MArchD during the course? No, it's not. We've had a number of people try to do that. I think mainly one of the things today as well is find out as much information as you can, so you make sure that you've got enough, you're making an informed choice. So no, you can't transfer halfway through of any of the masters, to be honest, across to the MArchD. They're a very different kind of direction to a point. They do share some modules, but on the MArchD you're only taking 80 credits out of from the 1 year masters, and then the 1 year masters is to another level. You can't kind of move across from one to another. Rick, I've got a really interesting question here. I'll read it out. Where was it? It's sorry. Oh yeah. I'd like to ask if the accommodation provided for 14 days self-quarantine is solely for the student, or is it viable for the accompanying family member? Ooh, good question.
That is a good question, and one that we would need to find out.
Thought so.
So yeah, we don't want to kind of give you an answer and it's not correct. So yeah, I will find that out for you. We are just waiting on a bit more info from accommodation anyway, because as you can understand, arrangements need to be made on that front anyway. But yeah, we'll take note of that and find out. And then, sorry, is that an MArchD student? Just
not sure actually. Radhika, don't know.
Yes,
don't know.
That's fine. Yeah, we'll let you know.
Okay, well, we'll let everybody know on that one, because that's a good question. Nobody's asked us that yet. Hence, why we're here. One of the main reasons is to see what kind of questions you guys have. Okay, I currently do not possess RIBA Part 1 certification, but I read that I was needing, if I want to move forward, to get Part 3. What do you advise regarding this? This is quite a complicated one to explain easily, but I'll have a go. What you need to be a registered architect in the United Kingdom, you need ARB, Architects Registration Board, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. RIBA, being British, we have two professional bodies and like to confuse things a bit. So we have two professional bodies. The ARB only regulate and awards given in the UK. The RIBA validate courses in the UK and globally, and arguably the RIBA is the most recognized architectural professional qualification you can get in the world. But if you wanted to get the Part 3 and you wanted to stay in the UK, you'd have to, first of all, if you've got a Part 1, the other thing is you don't need RIBA ARB Part 1 to apply to the Part 2 program. That changed in 2011. You can be given the Part 2 and then go back and get the Part 1 and then get the Part 3. What you would do if you wanted to become qualified in the UK, it's also subject to your visa in the main, but if you were successful with your visa and your ability to work in the UK, then you would contact the ARB directly as an individual and have a conversation with them and explain your personal circumstances. You can do that now and tell them that you're thinking about coming to study in the UK for your Part 2. On the Part 2, Reka and I hold a couple of sessions. One is on a visa, and the work visas. We hold an annual, usually around about March time, 1 hour session with international students who are interested on maybe staying on to work in the UK once they finish their studies. That is about an hour, and we get people from the International Students Advice team there because they are bang up to date on the visas more than we could be. In addition to that, probably about a week later or 2 weeks later after that, I held just a session on how to apply and get the ARB Part 1 and how you map across and submit that. There is no extra charge for that, as sometimes gets asked. No, I'm just doing that because I can give you some guidance on that. You're best to apply for the ARB Part 1 examination once you've finished the Part 2, because the Part 2 work can be used to apply for the Part 1. And I'll stop there because it gets too complicated after that. What we're hoping for as well, we don't have approval on this yet, but I think it's hopefully coming through, is that you will be eligible for a 2-year post-study visa now, not a 3-month post-study visa. So in essence, this is great news because it means if you do AAD or Advanced Masters in Architecture, or you do Hussein's course of sustainability, it means that you can actually potentially stay in the UK and practice. You'd need sponsorship and the right visa and the tier 2, tier 4 stuff, but we would work on that. And obviously things change on that quite quickly. But then on top of that, of course, you could potentially stay and do your Part 3. What will be the difference in MArch during coming months and previous years? How the practical aspects will be covered? Joel?
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, if you can provide a bit more sort of detail of what you mean in terms of the practical aspects in terms of making, but what we are able to do is try and offer it as close as to what has been normal before. It depends what you mean by practical, whether in terms of fabricating artifacts or whether you mean kind of instructional workshops of learning how to use a camera or a piece of software. So as I sort of said, the fortunate with having our own room, we are somewhat already enclosed anyway, and because we have quite a useful amount of students to kind of operate in a small group, and we're able to kind of deliver things. The intention is to still deliver everything as face-to-face as possible. So it kind of depends what you mean a bit in terms of practical aspects, because obviously if we're sort of looking at making, so for the masters, the first sort of third of the course is very much about sort of exploration, experimentation, and then we're looking at the second third of actually making something more physical, and then we sort of then the third third is we sort of then develop that into the dissertation. So you're able to sort of work in the workshop when that's open, but also within the classes we have sort of practical workshops of instruction. So as far as I can see at the moment, I think there's actually going to be very limited, or if any, difference of how we've previously delivered the course.
Okay, the other one, thanks. I apologize if you say your name wrong, Pawan. But the other thing is, it is a blended learning approach. If you cannot join us, it will be fully online, obviously, so that's fine. We did very, very well with that March onwards. The staff and the students were fantastic on that across the board, the whole school. We're prioritizing design studios' physical presence. So that's for us, that's key, because it's about talking to other students as well as talking to members of staff. All lectures will be online, because we can't use our lecture theatres as well as we could. Obviously, the capacity is somewhat reduced. So we decided to put all those online, but primarily we're interested in the design studio being the face-to-face aspect, and then seminars, tutorials and things like that. So that's the plan at the minute. So lectures will be online, but actually I actually found that some tutorials and lectures, well, particularly tutorials, as in not tutorials, small seminars, worked a lot better online, because people that were sometimes quite quiet managed to have a voice when it became to text. So actually there are some benefits to online learning. Okay, we're coming up to the last sort of 5 minutes now. So I'd like to, Gaurav, can I bring you in? I just wanted to know whether or not there's anything that you wanted to say or add to kind of conclude the session, please.
No, I would first of all like to thank you, Matt, and all the your excellent team who have managed to speak to all our students today. I hope a lot of their questions are answered. I'm sure that I'm keeping my fingers crossed that things move on positively from here. And as an institution, we are all looking forward to meeting our students in September. If the situation supports them and if they are comfortable traveling. Besides that, as an institution, we are taking all the right measures. I'm very sure that the compliance team at Oxford Brookes has got in touch with a lot of our students, and the CAS process would start off. In fact, some of our students have already started getting emails. So I'm sure even a major chunk of the students who are here online today would have received that email. So just, if you're all set and you're looking forward to travel, submit your CAS form, submit your financial documents. And if there is any query related to, your finances or how's life going to be as an Indian student at Oxford Brookes, even I'm an alumni of the institution, so you can get in touch with me. All right. The other bit is, just as Matt stated, we do have a very strong alumni network here in India as well. In fact, a few years ago, we did create 2 or 3 WhatsApp groups, and a lot of our students based out of Mumbai happen to be architects who are more than happy to share their experience with you all. So that's just it from my side. I'll put in my email ID in the next minute or so, and if there's anything, please be free to contact me. Thank you. Thank you, Matt.
Right. Thanks, Gaurav. Right, I'm going to wrap things up now. So if you do have any questions or queries, let us know. A big thanks for joining us today, but also big thanks to Jennifer, Rekha, Hussein, Joel and Gaurav for joining as well. These work a lot better, I think, than actually answering individual emails. So we'll probably hold one again if you guys start asking lots of questions, which is fine, and give you the opportunity. And yeah, Joel,
Matt,
did you have something else?
I was going to say the same thing probably. There was one more last question, if it is possible. Just
squeeze it in. I want to finish on 5:30 on the dot so that we stick to time, please, Hussein. But go.
No, it relates to you. I think the question, or Joel.
It's for the MArch. It says September to December for MArch entry. So
right.
From December till that classes will be online. For the MArch, we're looking at having all our classes face-to-face, basically, except for research methods, which is only a 10 credit out of the 180 credits. So it depends what you kind of intend to either do, whether you would want to start in September and be online, which would be difficult because we are very sort of physical and face-to-face. But it all depends on your circumstances, because what we don't want to do is make it difficult for people to then come onto the course initially and then attend fully. So I think it's probably best, Sonal, to you can email Caroline as well of what your sort of intention is, because as we said, everyone has got slightly different requirements. Because if you wanted to start in September but online and then come to the UK in January, we would look at how we might accommodate that, but it wouldn't be that we could start the course in January, if that's what you're meaning.
Yeah, I think basically the idea of today is the start of something, not the end of something or anything like that. It's the chance to answer some questions that were coming up as a group, which has been really helpful. but don't stop asking us questions. It's really important that you get the information you need. So, and obviously things change on us on a weekly basis, so we have to be guided by the government's directive. And in a minute, we're working with that and working really well with that. So it will be face-to-face in some form, I dearly hope, more than we could possibly plan just now. But I'm going to stop there. If you do have any other questions, please email. Gaurav's put his email in there, so that's helpful. Then hopefully you got the other ones at the end. I can circulate the link for this session back to you guys, depending on the size of it. I'll have to find a way to do that. But thank you guys, and take good care. Have a nice rest of the day. Cheers all.
Thank you guys. Bye.